Hey guys, what's up and welcome to my channel. I'm Miley. One day I'm going to switch my intro, but today is not that day. So with my last project being such a big one, creating that DIY accent wall, this week I wanted to take a step back and do something, well, relaxing for a change. During my last project, on one of my many trips to Home Depot, I saw these bad boys. Hi, Mom. Yes, some terracotta pots, and I purchased 4 of them and thought it would be super duper fun to paint them. Super duper? Anyway, I'm gonna stop talking now and just get started painting these bad boys. So, let go. Okay, taking these 4 pots, I decided to start off by painting them white. Instead of leaving them the classic terracotta color, I thought with starting with a nice base that it would make the colors on the pot pop. Wow, that is a tongue twister. Once all the white paint was dry, I started off by measuring out a 3" by 1" rectangle on each one of these pots that I was going to leave open for a label. If you've seen my previous 2 videos, you'll discover that I love labels, and whenever I get a chance, I will put a label on something, and I thought this was the perfect opportunity to put a label on the herbs that I planted in these pots. So for each one of these designs, I decided to do a different flower design. I know, flower pots, flower design, how original. And for this first flower design, I loosely based this off of Spanish tile. I thought this would be a fun, fairly quick design for this first pot. I measured out and figured out where the stripes needed to be, and that part was actually kind of hard because the pot does taper in at the bottom. Once I had those figured out, I went over all the lines using this lovely paint pen. I'm just kidding, my paint pens are pretty crappy. One day I will invest in nicer paint pens, but today is not that day. And if you are wondering, yes, I did film this video around the 4th of July, hence the nails. Then came the filling in part. This was really easy and I kept the design pretty simple. The cool part about Spanish tile is when you look at the individual tile, the design is usually pretty simple, but placing the same design over and over and over again next to each other makes for a very effective design in the end. Now, I did wait until the end when I was done with each one of the designs to pick out what herb was going in what pot. So with this first design being done for right now, let's move on to the second pot. A brand new white canvas. For the second design, I decided to go pretty classic with this design and do a random assortment of vines and flowers and leaves and, well, you get the point. Just something pretty and delicate looking. With the basic vine sketched out, I then painted over all of them and then started to fill in the space with flowers here and there. Like in normal Miley fashion, I didn't really have a plan and just started to paint flowers wherever I wanted to. Yeah, I also don't really know a lot about flowers, so don't get after me if most of these flowers don't actually exist in the world. Not a flower person, and the fact that I'm actually giving an herb garden a try is a big deal. I have a black thumb that kills every plant it's ever touched. I mean, even a few of my fake plants I have don't get dusted off enough. Once the front was all nice and filled up with vines and flowers and leaves, I carried the design to the back, doing the same thing, and now this second design is done for right now. For the third design, this was the only design I did that I had a clear idea of what I wanted to do. The design was in my head and it actually turned out exactly how I was picturing it would. Taking some painter's tape, I cut pieces into thinner strips and placed them all over the pot in random ways. And then to fill in each one of those spaces, I mixed up pastel versions of colors, basically sticking to rainbow colors. The only color I didn't do was pastel green, and you'll see why. Using those pastel colors, I then filled in each space. I tried to space the colors out evenly across the pot as best I could so that the colors weren't touching, but other than that, I randomly chose where colors would go. Once all the spaces were dry, I started to fill up each color block with its own pattern using the non-pastel version of the color. And now you can see why I avoided using pastel green, because in each block I ended up using green for the leaves and vines. Again, like that vine design, wow, I didn't even mean for that to rhyme, but the vine design I did on the last pot, I really don't know if some of these flowers actually exist. I mean, these purple flowers ended up looking more like grapes than actual flowers. To show you how little I know about flowers and plants and, well, things that just grow from the ground, in college, my roommate wanted to go shopping for a succulent, and I legitimately did not know what that was. You would think being named after a Hawaiian flower, that flowers would speak to me more, but they don't. I have killed so many plants over the years, and now here's my time to redeem myself. The first two sections was easy to come up with the pattern. In the pink section, I did pink roses. In the purple section, I did those grapey vine flowers. The blue section was probably my favorite pattern. These little blue flowers felt very tropical to me, so I did a more tropical leaf to go with this pattern, and it reminds me of a t-shirt you would find at, I don't know, Tommy Bahama or something. But once I got to the orange section, there is not a time in my life that I ever remember seeing an orange flower, so I basically painted little blobs and put stems on them. And the final color block that I had to create a pattern for was the yellow section, and again, this was pretty easy. I just went with sunflowers because, well, that was the only flower I could think of that was yellow. And now here comes the most satisfying part, removing all the tape. Wasn't that satisfying? The final thing to complete this design and finish off this pot for right now was putting a border around the label section, and it was on to the fourth and final pot. Now last, but certainly not least, the fourth and final pot that I designed. This was by far my favorite design I did. It was so different from the other three designs. The other three designs were pretty and delicate flower designs with soft edges and softer colors. And with this design, I went bolder with the colors and had really defined edges. Also, unlike the other designs, I did sketch out this whole design before I started painting, whereas with the other designs, I just drew out bits and pieces of the design. Painting this whole pot was a lot of fun and really easy. I felt like I was coloring in a coloring book, and I did do a lot of layers to each one of these flowers / the little designs that were coming off of the flowers. But instead of blending out the lines between a lighter and darker color, I left them really defined to give this design a really graphic and bold look. And the final thing that I did that was also super different from the other 3 designs was I did add a black outline to all of the leaves and flowers and other little blobby things that are coming off of the flowers. That really helped, I think, make this design pop even more and go that extra mile. And the final thing I did to kind of finish off this look and fill in the space a bit more was add little color block polka dots. And with this final design being complete, it was time to pick out which herb was going to go in which pot. The Spanish tile design, I decided to go with thyme because for some reason the flowers in the design reminded me of clocks, and I also did do a different font for each label that I thought matched the design. Next, this pretty vine design of course had to go to rosemary. And this design reminded me of pizza, so I had to put basil in it because I love basil on my pizza. Finally, I had to put cilantro in this last designed pot because cilantro reminds me of tacos, which reminds me of Mexican food, which reminds me of Mexico, and this design feels very Mexican to me. Once the labels were done, I did a glossy top coat over all of these designs to seal them in. And these are the final designs. I really love the way they turned out. They're all super different from each other, and I had so much fun painting all of them. And the last thing to do was to finally plant some herbs in these pots. I had so much fun painting these 4 pots. This was definitely the perfect project to follow up that DIY accent wall. This was a lot more relaxing to do, and I almost escaped this project without using a power tool, but I ended up making this hanging basket using a basket I got from Hobby Lobby and some wreath hangers that I bent and drilled some holes into and used nuts and bolts to attach to the basket. If you liked this video, guys, make sure to give it a thumbs up. My cat Wesley would love if you gave it a thumbs up, and come on, look at him. How can you say no to that cute little face? And make sure to subscribe to my channel, hit the notification button so that you know when I post, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.